Let's dive right into this explainer. We're looking at a wildly thrilling and honestly heavily debated knockout matchup that just saw Egypt book their spot in the World Cup round of 16 after being pushed all the way to penalties by Australia. It was a deeply frustrating 1-1 stalemate for over 120 minutes, capped off by a truly controversial shootout. But beyond all that immediate match drama, this game actually exposed something absolutely fascinating about one of the world's greatest players. We're going to unpack the tactical gambles that define this clash and really dig into the changing play style of Mo Salah.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the 1-1 stalemate, then cover Popovic's goalkeeper gamble, the pressure on the youth, Father Time and Mo Salah, the Messi comparison, and finally, looking ahead to Argentina.
All right, Section 1, the 1-1 stalemate and a real lack of magic.
For the vast majority of this game, it was a total grind. Neither team could consistently find that moment of true magic in front of the goal. Australia was incredibly limited in their attack. Their only goal literally came from an Egyptian own goal. And on the flip side, Egypt was just completely lacking in creativity. Marmoush was unusually quiet, and surprisingly, Mo Salah basically stopped making his dynamic runs just 25 minutes into the match. Ultimately, it took this fantastic, heroic header save late in the game from Australian goalkeeper Patrick Beach just to keep things level. And after that wild sequence, a penalty shootout was pretty much inevitable.
Moving right along to Section 2, Popovic's goalkeeper gamble, experience versus momentum.
Right as that final whistle blew, Australia manager Tony Popovic made a massive decision. It instantly became the major talking point of the whole match. He actually subbed out his goalkeeper. So you have Patrick Beach, he'd been in the game the entire time, he's totally in the flow, he's physically taller with a longer reach, and he had literally just made a crucial save to keep Australia alive. But then, Popovic brings in Matty Ryan. Now, Ryan is an absolute stalwart for Australia, tons of experience, but he's brought on completely cold, strictly for the penalties, basically on the assumption that he's statistically better in practice shootouts. The catch? Ryan is physically shorter with less reach. And the ultimate irony of this massive gamble is that Ryan couldn't make a single save during the shootout.
Which brings us to Section 3, pressure on the youth, misplaced responsibility.
Now, there was just this staggering disconnect between what you'd naturally expect in a high-stakes World Cup shootout and what actually went down for Australia. In these moments, you expect your experienced forwards and midfielders to step up and absorb the pressure, right? Instead, they sat back. They didn't take the penalties. Usually, you really want to avoid having center backs take penalties because it requires immense technical finesse, not just brute power. Yet a center back like Sudar was chosen to shoot, and he blazed it right over the bar. But honestly, the most baffling part of the whole shebang? You have an 18-year-old kid like Harrington. He's had a great tournament, sure, but he's just coming onto the scene. You absolutely expect the veterans to protect him from the searing spotlight of a World Cup knockout game. Instead, he gets thrust right into taking a crucial kick. And this quote right here just perfectly captures the frustration echoing through the soccer world right now. Where's the forwards and where's the attacking players putting their hand up saying, "I'll take one"? It really boils down to a question of character and leadership. Why on earth are you allowing a teenager and your defenders to shoulder the heaviest burden on the world stage while the attacking veterans just fade into the background?
So, that pretty much covers Australia's chaotic tactics. But it begs a massive question on the other side of the pitch. What about Egypt's superstar?
Let's get into Section 4, Father Time and Mo Salah, a changing game. Okay, during the shootout itself, Salah actually looked brilliant. He confidently helped secure the win with a Panenka. And if you aren't familiar with that term, a Panenka is this cheeky chipped penalty kick that goes straight down the middle of the goal. The commentators were affectionately calling it a casual little dinky-doo. It was a moment of pure, historic swagger, for sure. But when we dig a little deeper into the match analysis, that brief flash of magic actually masked a very difficult, very lethargic 120 minutes of regular play. The hard truth of sports is that Father Time comes for everyone, and we are absolutely witnessing a changing game for the Egyptian captain.
Just listen to this critique from the match analysis. It's like slow jog, slow jog, slow jog. There is no sprint to try to get open or sprint to get in behind. Observers were pointing out a severe lack of explosion from Salah. Instead of bursting into space like he used to, he just comfortably drifted over to the right-hand side. He was essentially drifting out of sight and out of mind for massive stretches of the game. He's relying really heavily on his incredible reputation, but those high-speed sprints that once defined his entire style, they just weren't there.
This leads us right to Section 5, the Messi comparison and adapting to age.
We can really understand the crossroads Mo Salah is currently facing by looking at how someone like Lionel Messi has handled this exact same aging process. Right now, Salah is still leaning heavily on his physical ability. He's waiting for the ball to be delivered directly to his feet, slow jogging, and waiting for these isolation moments that just aren't materializing anymore. Now, look at Messi's adaptation. Messi also walks around the pitch, we all know that, but he reads the game brilliantly. He floats to find really intelligent positional space. He's transitioned into a playmaker who utilizes his teammates effectively to orchestrate the game rather than trying to do the whole thing himself with raw speed. The modern game is basically begging Salah to adjust and read the spaces the way Messi does, but right now he just hasn't quite made that leap. And this matters immensely because it's a crossroads every single aging superstar in any sport eventually faces. You either adapt your mind or you let your fading legs dictate your downfall.
Finally, Section 6, looking ahead to Argentina, the ultimate test.
So Egypt has survived. They advance to face the expected winner, Argentina, in the round of 16. Assuming Argentina advances, which, let's be real, is the overwhelming expectation, we are setting up a monumental clash. But to survive a team with the pedigree of Argentina, Egypt is going to need significantly more than just isolated patches of brilliance from their captain. They cannot rely on him to do it all alone, and they certainly can't afford for him to drift out of the game for an hour at a time.
So I'm going to leave you with this final, burning question to think about. Which version of Mo Salah is actually going to show up against Argentina? Is it going to be the stagnant player waiting for the ball at his feet, relying on fading speed? Or are we going to see a tactical evolution, a player who reads the space, adapts to Father Time, and leads his team through playmaking brilliance? Because the answer to that question is almost certainly going to decide Egypt's World Cup fate. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it helped clear up the tactics behind the madness, and I'll catch you next time.